The days of the pandemic and lockdown may seem like quite a distant memory for a lot of us, but not for those living with long COVID. You will have heard about this with Nick in the news if you've been listening. And today we're hearing how Yorkshire has the third highest number of people reporting symptoms of long COVID in the country. Fran Haddock from Sheffield has been struggling with long COVID since November 2022, and our reporter Simon Thake has been to meet her.
I've been kind of very severely ill since I caught COVID in November 2022, so coming up to 2 years now, and I've been bedbound since that time. I normally kind of call it 98% bedbound, and that means that I can go to the bathroom in a wheelchair once or twice a day. The rest of the time I have to lay in bed. I have to use a commode next to my bed to go to the loo in the daytime. I can't stand up or walk. I can sit up a little bit now. Probably my main improvement is kind of cognitively. I can tolerate conversation. Obviously I can do this interview. And I can watch a little bit of TV, and that's it. Last year I couldn't do that. I couldn't tolerate screens, at all. I couldn't tolerate light. I had to basically lay in a dark room for about a year. But the improvements is still, a life that's destroyed basically by this disease.
You say a life destroyed. I mean, let's talk about, there is a personal life, there is a professional life, there's relationships. You were a vet, enjoying time with family, and now your life has turned upside down, is completely different. How do you comprehend what has happened to you?
In some ways, I don't think you can comprehend it. I think, I live in hope that this isn't going to be forever. And yeah, I'm lucky, my family have stood by me, my partner has, and they believe me, which isn't the case for everyone. But I'm reliant on them for care. So, that's a completely changed relationship. If I didn't have the care of my family, I probably wouldn't be alive. And I'm just lucky enough to have very good support from family, from the online community. My friend, I've made friends, because no one understands this, even people who see you going through it, unless you've been through it. So connecting with people who are going through exactly the same, that's really kind of life-saving in terms of having people that truly understand. And I have therapy as well, which, I was too ill to have any kind of counselling last year. Now I can have a half an hour therapy session every 2 weeks. I just live in hope, really, that things are going to change for me and everyone living with this.
If we talk about this report that's published today, it highlights the discrepancies between the north and south. More people with long COVID in the north and the south. There's an inequality in terms of deprived areas. Patients seem to be affected more as well. What's your view from the report?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, the findings of the report do not surprise me at all. It's very clear that inequality plays a huge part in long COVID and, the similar diseases like ME/CFS in terms of actually kind of getting it, but also the treatment that you get. We know that kind of frontline workers, maybe in lower paid jobs, had more exposure to COVID. People are less likely to be able to have time off work, which is really essential in the early days of long COVID when you need to rest. And then when people have long COVID, if they don't have the finances, then they're having to push through, try and go to work, look after family. And there is so many people that just absolutely cannot financially afford to have this disease. Yeah, kind of 90% of the treatments I've been lucky enough to try have had to pay for privately because you just cannot access them on the NHS. Most people can't afford that, can't afford like a £200 private consultation, never mind multiple consultations and drugs as well.
And in terms of that support, it seems the support you're accessing is unofficial stuff. It is that network you've created and leaning on family. But what about the official stuff? What about the NHS support, the long COVID clinics, the financial support? Do you think there is enough of that? Are you receiving that?
I mean, overall, there definitely isn't. Again, I've been really lucky, and that is also privileged because I've had like my mum to help me apply for my benefit. I was way too sick to even apply for things like PIP. So I've had help apply for that and help to apply to get a carer as well. And I have been successful in being able to get those, you know, which obviously I desperately need because I completely rely on care. And I have so many excess finances, which I need the PIP for. And I think some of that is because, you know, very clearly I'm extremely unwell. But I've heard of so many people, you know, unable to access benefits and care, even friends who are pretty, you know, as severely unwell as me, being told, oh, well, you can just order in a takeaway. So we're not, you know, you don't need someone to come in and care for you when they can barely, you know, can't sit up, can't stand up. And then we hear the government saying things like people need to get back to work and trying to clamp down on benefits like PIP when actually they are so hard to access. You know, people have no idea how hard it is to get these benefits. You know, it's not something you can fake. Many people having to appeal to get them. So many people having to do crowdfunding campaigns to pay for treatment, you know, pay for things to literally keep them alive.
Fran Haddock there from Sheffield says she's bedbound, 98% bedbound due to long COVID. Yorkshire has the third highest number of people reporting symptoms for long COVID in the country, so we will be continuing this chat in about an hour's time.